For Corio.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My question is to the Minister for Immigration and Border Protection. Last Tuesday, the Minister cautioned, and I quote, people to be very wary of unsubstantiated reports that may be put into the public domain. End quote. What caution did the Minister take in the very same press conference when he said that last week's death of Reza Barati at the Manus Island facility occurred outside the facility's perimeter?
I call the Honourable the Minister for Migration and Border Protection.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Before answering the member's question, I'm sure he would join me in expressing the condolences to the family of Mr Barati, and I offer those condolences on behalf of the government and myself for that tragic death that occurred at the Manus Island Centre last week. In relation to the question put by the member, as he would know, as a former minister, that morning and over the course of that night, I took several reports, both verbal and otherwise, regarding what had occurred that night. What happens in these situations, as ministers previous opposite will know, is that information can be patchy and it is rarely perfect on those first occasions. I reported the information I had as of that morning, and later that afternoon, when I returned to Canberra, I received further briefings and I gave a press conference where I said quite clearly in relation to where Mr Barati, known as the deceased at that time, the circumstances surrounding his death, and I said, in terms of the man who died, he had a head injury, and at this stage it is not possible to give any further detail on that, including now, based on subsequent reports, including where this may have taken place. On the afternoon of that very Tuesday, I further qualified the report I had given that morning. Over the course of that week, I received further briefings. I dispatched my Deputy Secretary to Manus Island. I dispatched General Campbell to Manus Island. And over the course of the weekend, and on Friday night, on Saturday in particular, I received further information that made it very clear that it was important to make a further correction to that earlier report. Information is never perfect in those circumstances. Over the course of that week, I conducted 5 press conferences to update people on what was occurring at that centre. It was a terrible tragedy, what occurred. But the other point I'd make about what occurred on that night is, despite that terrible tragedy, the centre opened the next morning and it continues to operate today. That centre is an important part of our overall suite of border protection policies. I wouldn't describe it as the cornerstone of our policy. I would describe it as an important part of our policy. The part of our policy that has been most successful in ensuring that for 64 days and counting we have had not one successful people smuggling venture to Australia has been principally what we have done at sea. We stand by all of those policies because those policies are stopping the boats and they are saving lives.
I call the Honourable Member for Wannon.